Welcome to another Secrets of the Pros True Mixing on behalf of the Department of Youth Services on Regent Street at number 55, Regent Street in Belize City. I'm your host, Andrew Rayburn, the mixing engineer. And today we're going to be touching on the topic how to get the massive low end. Right, and there are a few things we need to look at. So I'm gonna dive right in and I'll compare some songs here. We have some international artists. Let's go to the first one. Down, long as you. And let's play our song. DJ Pebbles and Lady Ice.
Alongside Lady Ice. My life ain't nothing perfect, but it is what I make it. The people gon' hate it, them still have to rate it. My life is a journey, for me alone. Me no need a soul, I just got alone. Me no worry about the money, but we need it. Life is a journey, so me walk it. Take a couple steps, call me at the party. Work real hard, every day I work harder and harder. Working, making money, I'm gonna be your father. I'm gonna keep loving you down. Won't give attention to who don't deserve it.
Try another track.
My life, come on, keep it simple, real simple. But it is what I make it. The people gon' hate it. If you think that I'm saying it because I'm happy, the journey for me alone. Me no need a soul, I just got alone. Me no worry about the money, me no worry. So I don't need nobody when I'm breaking. Me no worry about it.
There you have it. Now, guys, this is like, well, it's an almost complete mix, but the song is unfinished. But I'm gonna touch on getting the massive low end, right? If you study these other songs, maybe Britney Spears or Fifth Harmony, you'll hear some massive low end, and I'm gonna show how we do that. First and foremost, on my main mix bus, I have the console shape. I already show you guys that how to emulate analog summing. Running this entire mix is going through a desk, and this is the emulation of the desk to give it that that big depth, that big feel, right? So I'm gonna touch on the low end section. So I'm not gonna jump into the synthesizer. Let's go on. Let's see what I did with the rhythm section here. So I'm gonna freeze. I'm gonna freeze the vocals, and I'm gonna go straight to the drums. Let's see. So let me go on the and by the way, I'm also mastering too, right? So that in addition is giving it some wrong bottom end like the pros. So let's start off with the kick drum. I'm gonna turn off the parallel compression here. Let's isolate the kick. Okay, here we go. And you can do this with whichever kick. I was layering some kick drums today on a song featuring Dundee. I'm gonna put up a tutorial on that also with low end mixing. The kick drum I'm getting is Dancehall Madness. It came with Presonus Impact. I did some rough EQ on it. I'm gonna show you. This is before. I have sounding nice, but it's kind of a little muffled, right? So I've reduced 379 That's off. Let's get that boxy song. You want to touch that 300 to 400. I know you read it in the books, guys. And check this out. I was watching a recent show on Dave Pensado. I learned a lot from him and Jason Joshua. They showed some techniques on their shows, how they mix that massive low end, right? So I'm rolling off here about 41 kilohertz high pass thing, guys. Yes, I said it, 41 kilohertz. You might say, man, that's too much. You should be rolling off maybe about 20 or 30 kilohertz the most. Well, Jason said a very important thing when it comes to low end. When engineers send it to different mastering engineers, mixing engineers send their tracks to be mastered. Some of these mastering engineers are rolling off about 40, 50 kilohertz. So in the mixing phase, I'm going to be using majority of 60 up to 70 and 80 kilohertz in boosting. Below that, I'm not using. So if I want, I could have high pass up to 50. Let's see how that will sound. I can hear a little bit of the low end going away. Let's bring it back to about 41. Let's leave it about 46, right? So I'm taking out the boxiness and I'm also boosting at 3K to give that drum that more punch, and I'm taking out a little bit of 6 to 1. You might say, why take out 6 to 1 kilohertz when you just said you were boosting 60 to 80? Well, for this kick drum here, I'm balancing it, right? Before you heard the muffling. There's an imbalance in the frequency spectrum. If I can bring up my analyzer here, let's bring it up. If you notice here on the slope, we have a lot of low end. The mid range is at the bottom, and the high end is sinking down, right? So I'm having more low end than high end actually. So when I engage the EQ, I'm bringing up the high end, I'm taking down a little bit of the lows, and I'm cutting a little bit of the boxiness. So I'm giving this kick drum its balance. So after I do that, right, I want to go ahead and first of all, let me take out the C4, or let me leave the C4 on. I'm gonna send it parallel compression wise. And I'm using an SSL compressor with the T-Rox version of the PukeTech, and I'm gonna enable the parallel compression. Let's turn it on now. Off. On. And you might hear a slight difference in the low end, right? If I take off the compressor, I'm not getting that punch as much. I'm boosting about 7 dB of 100. It feels more bigger at 160, and I'm attenuating. So I'm boosting about 7 dB before, after, just to give it that more big, expensive song, right? And on top of that, both combined, the dry kick and the compressed kick is coming out of this arc. So I'm also boosting over here 7 to 1 dB. I'm also compressing it before, after, just to give it a little bit more punch, a little more feel. I have the attack at 30. Let's try 10. 10 feels good as well. I'm going to take down the threshold a little bit here. I don't want to over compress, right? So I'm going to do about 4 dB of compression. And I'm boosting 71, about 2 dB at 71 kilohertz. I'm also running it through the J37 tape machine. This also gives your kick drum a big boost, guys. Right, so let's turn that on. That's off. You hear the drum kind of a little bit softer. I turn on the tape machine. It's even popping out more, right? Before, after. That's also one of Jay's secrets. I'm also using the wave stereo imager. I'm monoing about 180 kilohertz, and I'm monoing down. I'm taking down the bandwidth here to stay mono, and I'm boosting the mid-range and the high end of the kick to give it a more stereo feel, right? So that's off, on, bypass, and I'm also throwing in another EQ. I'm rounding off about 42 kilohertz, taking away a little bit of 86. You might say, Ray, you're going in reverse. You're taking out the frequency that also boosts the kick drum. Now remember, I'm processing using a tape machine here, so I'm adding low end. So I'll need to attenuate, just basically control the balance. That's what I'm doing there, right? Taking a little bit of 86. Was getting in the way, right? So that's what I did to get the low end. I'm gonna bring in the snare drums. Let me bring in the snare drums, and this is how you get the massive low end, guys. Now I'm gonna move on to the bass. Basically, just rolling all the top end off, right? And taking out a little bit of 110, rolling off about 50 kilohertz. If I take that off, I'm gonna get too much that boomy songs. I'm sidechaining the kick with the bass, so the bass is actually being compressed by the kick, and I'm setting the frequency, the range to about anything below 100, right? So I can control that kick, so the bass and the kick are not fighting. Yeah, you know the deal with this process. Let me bring in the hats here and the snare drum. Now remember, guys, you want to make sure you're adding a sufficient low end or energy to your drum. Check this out. The snare drum that you're hearing, if I can bring the lead in for a moment here, the lead vocals, and bring in the snare drum, there was a mid-range frequency I was sweeping through, and I actually liked how that frequency sung on the snare drum. I wanted to song big and, vintage like. So check this out.
Nothing perfect, but it is what I make it. The people gon' hate it, them still have to rate it. My life is a journey. For me alone, me not need a soul. I just
check when the drum comes in.
Me no worry about the money, but me need it. Life is a journey, so me walk it. Take a couple stop, come me at the party. Work real hard.
Let me check the lead here. Let me bring in the song. Okay, I'm see what I'm doing here. Let's solo.
Hate it, them still have to rate it. My life is a
I'm
journey.
gonna bring in a kick
For
drum.
me alone, me no need a soul. I just got along. Me no worry about the money, but me need it. Life is a journey, so me walk it. Take a couple stop, come me at the party. Work real hard, every day I work.
I want you to focus on this frequency right here. I'm boosting about 574. You might say that's not a frequency for a drum. There's no rules. The frequency feels good. Check this out. When I remove the frequency from this drum, the drum's gonna kind of disappear behind the vocal. Check this out.
Harder and harder, making money, I'm gonna be a father.
Don't hear that
Ain't
much.
nothing perfect, but my life is worth
On.
it. Won't give attention to who don't deserve it. My life ain't nothing perfect.
So that's how I got the drum to cut through, right? So use your ears, guys. Always remember that.
But it is what I make it. The people gon' hate it. Them still have to rate it. My life is a journey.
That's DJ Pebbles of vocals. Now, a good thing I can do as well. Let's see. I'm not proud of compressing this snare drum. Okay, I'm not doing that, so I can leave that as it is. We can put the snare drum in its own room. So I can go over this track here, bring up the reverb and switch it to room. And we can create our own room effect. And we'll send the snare drum over to the room, and we're gonna hear what that sounds like.
For me alone, me no need a soul. I just got it.
Turn on the reverb. Bring down the size. Off. On. So we're creating a room, right? Fortunately, there's only one room preset on this, so I can take down the reflection. Take off the diffusion. Let's see how that's gonna sound with the music.
Ain't nothing perfect, but it is what I make it. The people gon' hate it. Them still have to rate it. My life is a journey.
Listen to the snare drum now.
Me alone, me no need a soul. I just got alone. Me no worry about the money, but me need it. Life is a journey, so me walk it. Take a couple stop, call me at the party. Work real hard. Every day I work harder and harder. Working, making money, I'm gonna be a father. Ain't nothing perfect, but my life is worth it.
Okay, so the drum steps back a little, but it steps back a little bit and then it stays in the front. So it's subtle changes, right? Off, on. And now we're gonna move on to the main mix bus here. Remember, I'm running everything through the console shaper, so I'm getting that big depth as well. Now check this out, guys. This is my EQ, this is my multiband, and this is my mastering compressor here. Now, guys, I've been using this a lot, the C4 multiband compressor, to control low end and the mid range, getting the vocal to pop better. So let's move on to the EQ first. Let's play that.
Perfect, but it is what I make it. The people gon'
This is the
hate
mid side.
Them still have to rate it. My life
So I
is
have
a
boosted here
journey.
61 kilohertz.
Me alone, me no need a soul.
Boost
I
that.
just got alone. Me no worry about the money, but me need it.
Taking out a little bit of 100 here.
Me walk it. Take a couple stop, call me
Boosting
at the
about
party.
500 kilohertz.
Work real
Giving them
hard.
more body.
Every day I work hard and hard.
Switch to the side. I'm rolling off about 90, 99 kilohertz here on the low end. Clean up some mud.
Perfect, but it is what I make it. The people gon' hate it.
Also, what I like to do, if I can, let's bring out the Dr. MS here. The Dr. MS also gives me a more bigger stereo as well. But I can switch it to a gentle widen.
Still have to rate it.
gonna switch to my bus compressor here. Let's bring that in.
Me no worry about the money, me no worry about the fame. Cause me give thanks to the better than choose my lane. Me no worry about haters, me just keep praying. Let them know this a straight
Perfect, but it is what I make it. The people gon' hate it, them still have to rate it. My life is a journey.
Now I'm setting the ratio to about 2. Attack is set to 30, so it's a hard attack. It's giving the punch of the mix, and I'm compressing about 3 dB. Let's adjust the attack and see the best songs, right?
Ain't nothing perfect, but it is what I make it. The people gon' hate it, them still have to rate it. My life is a journey.
This is what I want you to listen to. When I switch the attack from 30 to about 3, listen to the top end of the kick drum, the tick. It starts to get soft. This is what the compressor is grabbing, the kick drum. And if I take it further, it's going to affect the vocal. So let's adjust it here.
The ice. My life ain't nothing perfect, but it is what I make it. The people gon' hate it, them still have to rate it. My life is a journey. For me alone, me no need a soul. I just got alone. Me no worry about the money, but me need it. Life is a journey, so me walk it. Take a couple stop, call me at the party. Work real hard. Every day I work hard and harder. Working, making money, I'm gonna be a father. Ain't nothing perfect, but my life is worth it. Won't give attention to who don't deserve it. My life ain't nothing perfect, but it is what I make it. The people gon' hate it, them still have to rate it.
So it actually sounds better when I set it to 10. It's more punchy at 30, but at 10 it's more balanced. And I'm going to bring in the C4, which is boosting 1 dB of the low end from about 150 up. And that's like the finishing touch right there to get the big low end.
My life is a journey. For me alone, me no need a soul. I just got alone.
Me no worry about the money, me no worry about the fame. Cause me give thanks to the better than choose my lane.
But it is what I make it.
Let's bypass.
People gon' hate it.
Up.
Them still have to
On.
rate it. My life is a journey. For me alone, me no need a soul. I just got alone. Me no worry about the money, but me need it. Life is a journey, so me walk it. Take a couple stop, call me at the party. Work real hard. Every day I work hard and harder. Working, making money, I'm gonna be a father. Ain't nothing perfect, but my life is worth it.
Notice I have no EQ on the hi-hats. But what I can do, maybe I can tame the hi-hats a little bit. Just take out a little bit of top end here. Let's do that.
It won't give attention to who don't deserve it. My life ain't nothing perfect, but it is what I make it. The people gon' hate it, them still have to rate it. My life is a journey. For me alone, me no need a soul. I just got alone.
Me no worry about the money, me no worry about the fame. Cause me give thanks to the better than choose my lane. Me no worry about it.
Just love me.
Straight money making you have bills to pay and happy if you mind me.
Just love me.
Work for my God, look over me every day and night.
And there you have it, guys. I'm using the C4 multiband to boost about a dB on the 150 low end range, and I'm controlling the mid range as well, and it really tucks in the vocal, cutting it through the mix and keeping the bass elements under control. And I'm getting all that nice loudness, and everything is being controlled by the T-Rox bus compressor. I'm using this a lot. I love how it sounds. It has a grit button here to add a little bit more excitement on the rhythm. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. Link us on DYS Belize and let us know your questions, what you want us to touch on and talk about. As I said before, I'm going to do another tutorial on low end, so you guys can get that big, massive low end song, right? So we'll catch you on the next one. Also, before I go, guys, our email is dysstudio.producer@gmail.com. That's DYS, another S for studio, .producer@gmail.com.